If you've watched other videos on Spanish pronunciation, you've probably already come across some of the basics, like how vowels don't change from word to word, they're always consistent, or how the T in Spanish differs from the T in English, for example. Now, in this video, I want to talk about a few things that I noticed over the course of learning Spanish and observing native speakers speak, some things that I wasn't actually taught in any classes or anything like that and just observed over time. And by picking these things up, I think it helped me feel a lot more confident and sound more natural in Spanish. And that's what I hope for you as well after watching this video. And if you practice these tips enough on your own outside of conversation, they will become second nature for you once you are actually speaking with somebody, so that you don't have to sit there and try and think about what you're doing with your mouth when you're trying to have a conversation. And instead, it'll all be basically muscle memory for you. So the first tip is when you come across a word that has an NJ or an NGE or an NJA, so words like naranja or San Juan, Puerto Rico, or San Jose, Costa Rica, or ingeniero or extranjero. Notice that in those words, you don't pronounce the L and the J separately in most cases. Sometimes you'll hear Spanish speakers say San Juan, for example, if they're trying to be really, really clear. You might hear a TV presenter speak this way, but in normal conversation, most Spanish speakers in most dialects will say San Juan.
Por el norte de San Juan. El norte de San Juan.
It happens in the back of your throat. The N and the J, or the N and the G in a word like ingeniero.
Estamos rodeados de ingeniería,
Come together, becoming something similar to the ING in English that we say when we say walking, talking, singing. So it happens in the back of the throat, back here. So instead of saying extranjero, it becomes extranjero. So the N and the J in that word morph together. Or take another example with the phrase en general. A lot of times you'll hear this squished together so that it is en general. Instead of en general, en general. This combination of sounds is just one of many ways that Spanish speakers connect their words and make them all flow together. It's part of the reason why Spanish sounds really fast to people who aren't familiar with it. Second tip, in words that have a G-U-A sound, you soften the G. So take the word agua. You will rarely hear a Spanish speaker say agua with a hard G, agua. That doesn't really exist. In most cases, in most varieties of Spanish, you'll hear people say agua with a soft G, and in some varieties, you'll even hear people omit the G entirely. So it becomes something more like a W, as in agua.
Consumo de agua en un lavamanos. Consumo de agua en un lavamanos.
The same thing happens with other common words like guantes, gloves, or Guatemala. It's not a hard G in these cases. It is a soft G that happens kind of in the back of your throat. And again, in many varieties of Spanish, it's omitted entirely and sounds more like a W. And tip number 3, if you want to sound more like a native Spanish speaker in general, this is something that applies pretty globally in Spanish, and that is that the words are cut a little bit more short than they are in English. The sounds are clipped a little bit tighter. So let's take a sentence with cognates in it to make it really clear. Let's say in English, the actor is in the hotel. In English, the actor and hotel, notice that the vowel can get extended sometimes, whereas in Spanish, you'll say, el actor está en el hotel. El actor está en el hotel. The vowels stay consistent and the word is clipped short, generally speaking. Take another example. In English, the animal escaped from the zoo. The animal escaped from the zoo. So depending on the way that you speak English, you might have a big drop in the vowel sounds in particular. Whereas in Spanish, el animal se escapó del zoológico. El animal se escapó del zoológico. The vowels are clipped short and the words are generally kept, they're not dragged out in the way that a lot of English speakers do in our own native language. Depending on where you are in the Spanish-speaking world, the intonation and the rhythm of the sentence is going to be different. But the general principles of keeping your words shorter and vowels clipped a little bit shorter than you do in English applies pretty globally. All right, I hope this was helpful. Give it a shot on your own time. Before you are in front of a native speaker, practice some of these things on your own. Practice the NJE, tricky words like ingeniero, and then when you get the muscle memory of just getting your mouth used to these new sounds, when you get that down, actually having a conversation with somebody, you're going to be really confident that what's coming out of your mouth actually sounds natural and is correct.